Going into the 2024 NBA trade deadline, the assumption was that the LA Lakers were going to make a move. They're a LeBron team. They're a team that needs to always try and push for a title, yet their roster remained the exact same as like a basically 500 basketball team right now. And it's made people wonder if not only the future of LeBron in LA is in question, but honestly, if the Lakers just gave up on LeBron in the first place. Now, by gave up on LeBron, what I mean is like the idea of LeBron having a ton of control and influence over what the team does or doesn't do from a roster perspective, which is something that he has gotten very used to basically throughout the entirety of his career. He did it twice in Cleveland, did it in Miami, he did it with the Lakers when they went out and got Anthony Davis. The threat of losing LeBron as a free agent if you don't make moves that he wants you to make and if you're not always pushing for title contention has, one, arguably led to most of, if not all of LeBron's titles, and two, is a constant theme for him throughout his career and even with the Lakers as he's gotten older. However, now that he's basically 40 years old, that influence might be shrinking a little bit. To be fair, LeBron has still been very, very good this year. He's still a top 20 player in the league. He's still someone that you need to account for on a nightly basis, and still someone that if he did choose to leave in the offseason, as he does have a player option, that would be a negative for the Lakers. However, I think this deadline is an indicator, one, of a very weird situation at this particular deadline compared to what they could potentially do in the offseason, but also I don't think the Lakers are as afraid of what LeBron leaving the franchise would do to their team as maybe they have been in the past. Now, first, let's talk about the deadline specifically. There were not a lot of moves to be made, not just for the Lakers, but for a bunch of teams. There just weren't a lot of big-time players available. DeJounte Murray was the guy that was rumored to go to the Lakers a lot. That never happened. D'Lo started playing better, and they just decided it's better for them to just not make a move, even if I'm sure LeBron wanted them to make one. The other part of this as well, though, is as you look forward into the offseason for the Lakers, their ability to upgrade the roster, even in a way in which LeBron would want them to, is significantly better in the offseason compared to the deadline. Now, it's a little bit complicated with their first round pick situation because technically the Pelicans, as a result of the Anthony Davis trade, can pick whether they would like to take the 2024 first round pick from the Lakers or the 2025 first round pick. They have to make that decision, before the draft of 2024. My assumption would be that they would rather have the 2025 first round pick because it's a future asset as well as potentially a better draft than what looks like a very weak 2024 class. The only counter to that would be if the Lakers end up, having like a top 15, a top 17 pick, maybe they would value that over kind of the uncertainty of the 2025 selection. But regardless, either direction that they go in, the Lakers are going to have access to more first round picks in the offseason at the time of the draft than they would have had at the trade deadline. The night of the draft, assuming the Pelicans don't take their 2024 pick, they would have access to that 2024 pick as well as at least bare minimum, depending on how some other things work out with which pick they take, their 2030 first round pick as well. At this deadline, they would have had access to one. They're going to have access to 2 to 3 in the offseason and potentially a better opportunity to bring in stars just in terms of more guys being available. It's still not a super long list, but it is one that seemingly always grows. Every offseason, someone gets upset, somebody wants to leave. Right now, the list is very guard heavy. I still would keep an eye on Kyrie Irving, potentially in Dallas. I still would keep an eye on potentially Donovan Mitchell in Cleveland, depending on how their postseason run goes. I know they've been playing really well, but until Donovan Mitchell signs an extension with Cleveland, I'm always going to have him on my radar as a possible trade candidate. And then both guys in Atlanta, Trae Young and DeJounte Murray, I think those are the 4 players right now to keep an eye on. And not only is that a better list than what they had at the deadline this year, but also they have more assets to potentially trade in the offseason rather than at the deadline. And had they made a move at the deadline where they gave up a first round pick, they would not have had that in the offseason, which again, it's just going to be a better opportunity for them. So even though it's easy to think about this in a LeBron-centric context, it's very possible that 2 things happened. One, the Lakers did not like their options at the deadline in comparison to the offseason and preferred to wait and felt that it was better for their team to wait. And 2, looked at LeBron and decided, you know what? I understand how great of a player you still are, but if you decide to leave because we didn't want to trade a first round pick for DeJounte Murray at the 2024 trade deadline, we're okay with that calculation. And it's possible that that's the first time that has ever happened in the history of LeBron's career, with the exception of the last year that he was in Cleveland in 2018 when they decided to keep future picks when he desperately wanted them to trade that away. Other than that, it's never really happened before where the team is like, you know what, if you want to leave, that's fine. The Cleveland situation was more so like, we know you're going to leave and we don't want to lose any of our stuff. The Lakers, I think now are looking at this as like, in a scenario in which LeBron declines his player option and leaves the Lakers as a result of them not adding pieces at the deadline, they still have Anthony Davis, a couple of other guys like Austin Reeves, and they still have have those assets that they would have had, whether LeBron is there or not, in terms of those future first round picks. And they can bring in someone on the perimeter to not replace LeBron, but still be a nice addition to their team and still be very good next year. And I think that more so is their mindset is, yeah, they're not super concerned about what LeBron's future plans are, at least not to the point of making a move at the deadline that they would not have normally made. And also they're like, you know what? I think that we're still probably going to be fine even if LeBron does leave. Now, my assumption at this point is that LeBron is not going to leave. He's either going to pick up the player option or he's going to sign another one-and-one deal. I don't think he's going to retire. I think he still wants to chase a title, and I think that LA is still a great opportunity for him to do that. And unless he takes like a minimum deal or like a $10 million deal, mid-level exception deal to go and chase a title on one of these other teams that is already really well set up for championship contention, I think the Lakers made the right decision here, where they don't like the deals at the deadline. They don't have to make a move just because LeBron wants them to, and the opportunities are better in the offseason, and presumably LeBron will return. There is a path here where they completely screwed this up and things go really poorly for them and they can't add a star in the offseason, and then LeBron leaves as a free agent, and then they go into next year and it's Austin Reeves and Anthony Davis and not a whole lot else. That is a realistic scenario for the Lakers. But in my opinion, one, it's not all that likely, and two, even in that scenario, it's so unlikely that it was worth the risk of not making a move at the deadline that they just didn't like. And there's so many factors that went into this in terms of the Lakers not making a move. And I know that a lot of people were surprised because we've gotten so accustomed to LeBron having so much say over what his teams do or don't do. And more so, I think that it is just the Lakers deciding that they didn't like their options rather than like, oh my gosh, we just don't really care if LeBron leaves or not. I don't think that is as big of a factor maybe as it's been in the past, but still, this mostly comes down to we didn't like the trades in front of us. If there was a deal at the deadline to bring in Donovan Mitchell or Trae Young, or prior to that, before we got traded to Indiana, Pascal Siakam or something, if there was a deal like that out there that the Lakers really like, I think they would have taken it. And at the end of the day, the decision to not, for example, make the DeJounte Murray trade, D'Lo and a first for DeJounte Murray, the decision to not make that deal when it was potentially on the table could be the reason that LeBron is not a Laker after this offseason. That is a very, very real possibility, and that's part of the reason why NBA team building is so tough. You're dealing with a lot of uncertainties. Especially when LeBron's around, you're just dealing with a lot of question marks all the time in terms of his long-term commitment to the team. But they've spent half a decade doing everything that LeBron wants them to do in terms of trading for Anthony Davis, trading future picks, and obviously it resulted in the 2020 title, and they've been pretty successful while LeBron has been there. But at the same time, they have to start thinking about what even if the LeBron era lasts into next year, they have to start thinking about what this is going to look like when LeBron isn't there anymore, because there's just no way that they could continue to mortgage their future and trade away all these future firsts and not think about what's in the best interest of the Lakers. LeBron's mindset is always going to be different than the Lakers' mindset because it's always going to be short term. He doesn't care if the team is good in 2035. If it increases the chance for him to win a title in a given season by 5%, it's a move he's going to want to make. And I think we're starting to see a shift in the Lakers' mindset of like, yeah, we would like to keep LeBron happy. We would like for him to be here. But at a certain point, we have to think more about our future as a franchise rather than just going with the LeBron mindset. So it's not really them giving up on LeBron per se, but maybe the influence and the mindset of LeBron's kind of influence over the Lakers as well as their own individual team building mindset shifting in a pretty significant way.